All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Superintendent McDavid is out of town. He hosted the first session, so Mr. Francis and I are going to take tonight's presentation on and present some information for you and address any questions you might have. So thanks again for being here. Talking tonight about the Sinking Fund Initiative on August 7th. Brief overview, we're going to touch on the bond review, where we've been with the bond issue, a bit about what need remains and a plan on how to track that and how to address financially the needs that we have down the road. So back in 2014, we commissioned IDS, an architect firm, to study our facilities and make a recommendation. Stakeholders were involved, parents, teachers, community members, and arrived at $120 million in need. That same stakeholder group, along with the Board of Education, identified about $59 million in a proposal that we thought could pass, and sure enough it did, and work commenced. We did that work over 3 phases. We are in phase 3 right now, the summer of 2018, but phase 1, you see the buildings, Angel, Patton, Gill, Norup, and half of the high school. Phase 2, Burton, Rogers, Anderson, and the other half of the high school, and the current phase tackling Avery and Tyndall work. So what work did we accomplish? You can see the buildings there. Essentially, we looked at enhanced security, so entrances to the buildings, additions as well, whether that be for art or music or things along those lines. Really just looking at all the needs stemming from that IDS report. Over at the secondary level, the large group multi-purpose space relieves some of the huge demand on the gymnasium. So we were able to tackle that along with addressing the music and support staff rooms. Anderson, the same thing. We updated the main entrance, new courtyard and secondary entrance, as well as reconfiguring the music rooms there. At the high school, new office and entrance for the addition. Media center and tech labs were updated as well. Reconfigured the design studio, and the pool and auditorium received some improvements as well. At Tyndall, we are working to complete the renovation for the administrative staff, including the new professional development spaces. And I should back up to the next slide, or the past slide, to say that at Avery, we are reconfiguring Avery to be our own main facility for our early childhood program. Right now it's 2 campuses. It'll be under 1 roof when all is said and done at the end of this renovation campaign. So some of the actual infrastructure updates: energy management system to monitor our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems to make sure that we are managing and working with those properly. HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning as well, were improvements, so new boilers, air conditioning throughout all of our buildings. Initially that was not in the scope, but with some pretty solid budget and bid results early on, we were able to make that happen throughout the entire district. We upgraded lighting to improve learning environments and energy efficiencies, remodeled some select restrooms, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, as well as plumbing improvements as well. Replaced select doors and some windows, some roofing work as well, and corrected some drainage in addition.
In regards to safety and security, it was one of the key upgrades that we made. And the secure entrances of each of the buildings were closely looked at and revised, and we upgraded all the entrances at all of the schools, so they're now much more secure. So for example, I was a principal at Patton Gill. You could walk 100 to 150 steps through the building because the office was in the middle of the building. Now you enter the building and go right into the entrance there at Patton Gill and many of our buildings. We also added and upgraded our security camera system. So that is a major need, and that's something we addressed. We updated our fire alarm system, clocks, messaging. In addition to the security cameras, we also gave access to our police departments, Oak Park, Huntington Woods, and Berkeley. Technology upgrades, we were able to make quite a few technology upgrades as well. Looking at the device to student ratio, we had approximately 1 device for every 7 students. Now we cut that down to 1 device for every 4 students, and that's something that we'll continually look at increasing as well. Each classroom has an interactive projector system that helps with learning, making it more interactive and engaging for our students. Sound systems were upgraded, digital clocks, building Wi-Fi. So only 2 of our buildings had Wi-Fi before the bond. Now all of our buildings have Wi-Fi. District-wide data network tech upgrades throughout, phone system replacement, As a matter of fact, with the old phones, you'd have to often search on eBay just to find the missing parts or parts that need to be replaced for our old phone system. No longer the case now. Classroom upgrades, we're able to touch every classroom and make an impact there, from furniture to equipment in some of the areas, relocating our art and music spaces in many of our buildings and renovating them. We also were able to look at the spaces for some of our special education classrooms and our interventionists, learning specialists, and redesign and repurpose some of those spaces to make it more effective for learning. We also looked at our computer labs and media centers to provide a more flexible learning environment, especially at the Berkeley High School. With the furniture that we have there, we did a complete overhaul, and that is something that we hope to extend throughout the district with some potential sinking fund dollars. Also carpeting throughout the building. Phase 3, currently if you drive by Avery, you'll see it under construction, and that's because the half that where the administration was residing is now under construction, and Avery, as Mr. Gallagher pointed out earlier, will be for the early childhood building blocks program. So Avery, starting in late August, will be the early childhood program. It'll also have a new addition for 2 new classrooms because we have growth in our programs in the early childhood. The Tyndall Center, which will be completed in approximately late December, will house the administration offices.
Mentioned the 2014 building assessment that IDS put together. $120 million in needs were identified. In 2018, McCarthy and Smith, our current construction manager that's executing our bond scope, we asked them to look at that IDS report, also weigh in the improvements that we did make already and see what remains. So we took that list, that reduced list, met with the principals and said, okay, here's what we did not tackle. Is it still valid? Do we still have those needs? And they also identified some new needs as well. And all that collectively totals $45 million in need, including $4.4 million in technology. The process did include meeting not only with our principals, but with key staff members as well to kind of make sure we didn't miss any scope that we wanted to tackle. So the IDS folks and industry standard recommends 3 to 5% of our building value to be invested in our schools each year. So based on a $200 million current assessment of our overall facilities, that would equate into about a $6 million investment per year. So to address some of the needs, we're going to identify some of those right now. Restroom upgrades at BHS, we did not tackle those with the original scope, but there is a need there. Multi-purpose and cafeteria spaces at the elementary and Anderson. Really the NORP similar space is the envy of all the principals. What that really did is it freed up the scurried, hurried process of using our gymnasium as a cafeteria as well. So many of our principals identified that as a need, that additions for multipurpose space, similar to NORPS, would be on the docket. Not so glitzy, but roofing and paving and building exterior improvements, building envelope, if you will, are certainly needs that we identified. Media center redesigns like we have upstairs at the high school to accommodate just current thoughts on how technology and media centers combine to provide for a great learning area for our students. And more, so drainage, traffic flow, the BHS science wing, auditorium, this space, bleacher replacement, those kinds of things all have been identified for scope within our updated assessment document.
And additional tech needs will also arise, even though we didn't overhaul with technology. We are hoping to make that student to device ratio 1 to 4 to 1 to 2, and that this sinking fund will allow us to use money to support instructional technology. So that's a recent law in the last couple of years that allows us to use sinking fund money to support instructional technology. Also, we have Wi-Fi throughout our buildings in most areas, but there are some common areas and some hallways that could be addressed even more so. Media center upgrades, as Mr. Gallagher talked about, potentially redesigning some of the media centers, all the media centers, to include more technology for our students, and always revising and looking closely at security cameras for our buildings as well. Also with technology, as many of you know, that technology isn't something that's just a one-time purchase and you're good for a while. The technology has a cycle from 3 to 7 years depending on the device or the system or the structure. So that is included as well to look at the technology needs over the next 10 years, and it is captured in this report. And then allowing each building to have some innovative tech money. Again, technology will change and be very different 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Looking at how we can support our buildings and their initiatives with their tech needs that they have unique to their building, but also unique to the times as we go through over the next 10 years.
So it's kind of a recap of where we've been as far as the assessment, to the bond, to the passing of the bond, to the execution of the scope. I want to touch now on where we think we need to go. So a real quick recap. Back in 2013, the community passed a millage for sinking fund for 10 years. That served us well. It generates about $700,000 a year, but as Mr. Francis alluded to, there are some restrictions as to how we can use those dollars. So you can't use those dollars for instructional technology. You can't use them for security. So the new law changed. We're able to do that now, which is one of the reasons why this initiative is on the ballot. So we currently levy just shy of 0.7 mils on all the properties in the district. And we do want to mention that the board just a couple months ago at the meeting passed a resolution that for the 1920 school year, and let me be clear, that's the first year that we would levy the millage should it pass, not 18-19, just based on the timing of when the election happens versus when we adopt the budget. So we'll levy the 0.7 mils for the 18-19 school year, and should we be successful in August, we'll levy the 3 mils in 19-20. But the board mentioned that, hey, if we pass this, we're not going to levy the existing mill. That's a conscious decision that they'll make when they adopt the budget, but we will levy the 3 mills, and you'll see how all that math shakes out in a few slides here. So August 7th, 2018 is the date. We're asking the voters to approve 3 mills levied on all properties, 10-year in length. That's the maximum number of mills and the maximum length that the law allows. It'll generate about $3 million for 1920, and we'll support projects that we've touched on already. So roofing, concrete, technology infrastructure, energy and security improvements, all the other items that we mentioned throughout the presentation. This proposal actually saves the taxpayers some dollars. And the next slide will show the math, just some quick highlights here. We mentioned 3 mills will be levied on all properties should it pass. In 2019, the 2009 and 2015 refunders, I call them, just think about a refinancing of your mortgage. We refinanced our bonds, old bonds, many years ago, and the last debt payment for both the 09 and the 15 bond refunder ends at the end of the 18-19 school year. So providing an opportunity for us to take advantage of those mills dropping off, still invest those dollars as that 3 to 5% IDS suggestion indicates, and maintain our investment well into the future is the thought. And as I mentioned already, if the 18 sinking fund mill passes, the Board of Education will not levy this 0.7 mils, generating a savings, and let's look at how that math will work. So currently, we levy 3.34 mils for those 2 refunding bond issues. That stops after the 18-19 school year. 3.7 mils, that's what we're levying right now on the bonds that we did pass back in 2015, the ones that we're executing the work on right now. And there's our 0.7 mils for the 2013 sinking fund. No sinking fund millage for 2018 yet, because we're talking about what we're currently levying. So 7.74 mils roughly that we're levying right now. Flash forward, if the sinking fund does not pass, and we've got to be fully disclosing here, so let's talk about what the numbers look like if in fact it doesn't pass. Well, again, I mentioned the 09 and 15 refunders. Those terminate at the end of next year. That drops off regardless. Our 3.7 mils stays the same. Our 0.7 mils would stay the same as well because this did not pass, so about 4.4 mils. So you see a rather significant reduction, but all we're left with at that point is $700,000 to invest. Not a small number, but not the number we think we need if, in fact, the new millage is passed. So again, here's the 2019 with the sinking fund passing. Again, that 3.34 mils terminates anyways at the end of next year. 3.7 mils, we're going to be paying that until for a few years as we pay off the 2015 bond. Here's the action that the board resolved not to levy, so that 0.7 mils lops off. And here's the new 3 mils for the sinking fund. So you add these two columns, 6.7 mils, compare that to the current millage, and there's our 1 mil reduction. Savings to the taxpayers, allowing to invest $2.3 million more in the buildings, right? $3 million minus the $700,000 we have right now, saving 1 mil. And 1 mil, just do some quick math. If you've got a $200,000 home, half of that's your taxable value, $100,000. That taxpayer would actually save $100 under this scenario. This slide's pretty busy, but what it shows is it's the last year we have audited numbers, so it's 2016 data. But you see that our tax effort for the county, we are sixth. I think we're sixth. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, seventh highest or lowest, I should say, in the county. If in fact the millage passes and that 1 mil savings materializes, we will be fourth lowest in the county as far as our tax effort, if you will, all the while allowing us to invest $3 million in the budget, but showing that I think very good value, rather modest level of taxes compared to the rest of the county, with the ability to invest those dollars into our facilities. So we think that's a win-win for all of us, and still showing that we are very conscious of our standing in the county when it comes to overall taxes. I'm going to jump into now a couple FAQs and go from there. Mr. Francis.
Sure. So we threw a lot of information at you. This is one of the common questions that we're hearing that we wanted to think about. Why an increased sinking fund and not a new bond proposal? We had many conversations about the differences between the two, and we felt like the sinking fund made the better decision, made the better choice for us, because when you do a bond, you have other costs, interest, bond costs that go into what a bond requires. But when you do a sinking fund, there is no loan, so the money is a steady yearly increase to us, approximately $3 million that we can use for maintenance. Most of it will be used for maintenance, but we're also looking at some of the additions that may be needed with cafeterias or gymnasiums at each building, so we could save some of that money over time to look at building some additions. Will the tax rate increase? Nope. Tax rate will decrease by approximately 1 mil, or just over a year, if it is passed. And then why now? Why now? Because we're looking at these two bond refunder payments that are coming off the books, essentially, and will allow us to continue collecting funds for the sinking fund at just right about the right time, because all the good work that we just did, the sinking fund allows us to then maintain all the improvements that we made. So it makes a lot of sense to do this right now.
Will my tax rates go down if the sinking fund is defeated? We mentioned that and showed that in the slide. Yes, they certainly will, but it does mean, as Mr. Francis just mentioned, that's $3 million opportunity cost, that's opportunity lost essentially to invest in our facilities, to maintain the $60 million that we already invested, to address some of those long-standing needs that the taxpayers and stakeholders identified back in 2014, and really invest in our schools, not only this in the near term, but long term as well, certainly benefiting our students, staff, and community for that matter. We all know that Berkeley is very attractive for a lot of reasons, one of which we think top on that list is schools, and to invest in our schools, I think long term is an investment in the community as well. What happens if the proposal is voted down? We mentioned that the dollars collected in the 2013 sinking fund, the $700,000, we'll have that and we'll levy that, but certainly we don't think to the level of investment that really we would require to maintain our facilities in the condition that we want them, and to be nimble to add technology if the need be.
Will the 2013 sinking fund be foregone? Actually, Mr. Gallagher, I think this one is yours.
I think it is, sir. The sinking fund will be foregone in 2013 and will continue to be a annual decision by the Board of Education. Current board cannot commit a future board, and this millage goes all the way through 2023. But it is the district's intention, it's the administration's intention, it's the board's intention for certain that because of the structure of this, the ability to pass on the 1 mil savings, it is the intention in the current year and all the way through the natural termination of the current millage, that the district and the board would not levy the .7 mills for the duration of its term. Is this you, Mr. Francis?
What can sinking fund dollars be used for? Under the current law, they can be used for construction, repair, maintenance, instructional technology like we talked about, security equipment, and the purchase of real estate. Sinking fund dollars cannot pay for salary or benefits, so that would be one of the questions that we get. Those are more of our operating costs. So salary and benefits for our employees cannot be covered by this sinking fund. Classroom, what's the difference between classroom supplies and instructional technology? Classroom supplies cannot be covered by sinking funds, so the papers, the books, the pencils cannot be covered, but instructional technology can, so the computers, the whiteboards, the tablets, the things that impact learning can be covered for the sinking fund, from the sinking fund. Have budget proposals been developed to demonstrate the sinking fund, how it would be used? Yes, each school reviewed the assessment from McCarthy and Smith with Mr. Gallagher and I, and we reviewed each item, and we also asked about current needs and future needs, and we outlined those in the report. So we were able to review each of the needs and then prioritize those. One of the big purchases or potential additions would be looking at that multi-purpose cafeteria space for the elementaries. Because like Norup, they see the benefits to that, and many of our elementary buildings see the potential benefits to that as well. Currently, you know, there's gym time up to a certain amount of time just before lunch, and they've got to wheel all in the tables and the food and everything, and then they've got to clean it all down and clean all the tables down and get them out and have gym class shortly thereafter. So that can be a challenge on a daily basis.
So what typical repairs would be included in that 3 to 5% suggested budget? Repairs are eligible to be funded with sinking fund dollars. We talked about the renovations to multi-purpose spaces and technology. Those are the capital investment. But repairs, frankly, is very key from my view that we're able to charge things like paving improvements, window replacements, repairs and maintenance on our HVAC equipment, lighting, et cetera. It's very valuable for other, if not for the sinking fund, those costs jump into our general fund and certainly take dollars out of the classroom. So the ability to fund repairs in addition to the capital needs is a key feature of the new millage. So some logistics here to wrap up. Last day to pick up an absentee ballot would be August 4th in our city clerks, respective city clerks' offices. And the ballot language will soon be on our website. You see the link right there. And with all that being said, we'd be glad to address any questions or comments that we may have. Any questions or comments? All right. Well, we certainly thank you for your time tonight. And if any questions pop in your head on the way home or over the next couple months, give us a call at the board office. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.